What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation, and I was talking to my friend that's been in the trucking industry since 1994, and I was kind of talking to him about my thoughts on what is going on with the market, the rates, stuff like that, and I was giving him my perspective, and he thought that it would be something good that I kind of spoke about on my channel. Now, I was thinking about posting this earlier, but I did not want to talk out of line since I am not in that industry. And I think, you know what, that might actually be a benefit if any owner-operators are in here listening to this. Before I get into that, just wanted to, first of all, I am at this truck stop in Hesperia, California, and I thought there was some begging people in the South. Boy, this is, I probably won't be able to get through this video. I've already had like 4 people come up, but I did, you know what, I did show some support and bought some Oakland Raider pillows, $30 for 2, and actually there's some really good pillows, so happy about that. Today's what, I don't know, I left the Springfield terminal a few days ago, got a load coming out here, pays about $1.30 something a mile. Didn't really calculate out all that much, but it's just under $2,000 for 3 days, so I'm fine with that. I don't need the $3 and $4 a mile to make me happy. Now, let's talk about this. Like I said, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, but you know, it was kind of grinding on me hearing all this stuff, and you know, this gives me the opportunity to talk about it. Now, this is going to apply mainly to owner-operators and lease operators to a lesser extent, and then also company drivers to an even lesser extent. So let's talk about it. When you decided to get into trucking, especially if you decided to become an owner operator, you know, you thought trucking was trucking and you were a good trucker, or whatever you thought a good trucker was, and you thought you knew what the trucking industry was about. But what you didn't realize, or a lot of people didn't realize, is you stepped not only into trucking, but almost in the commodities market as well. Not truly a commodity, but similar in a lot of ways. Now, before I get talking, you know, because I know somebody's gonna be like, you don't know anything about business. Before I got into mortgage banking, I was actually a relationship manager at a bank, and part of my job duties were to do business loans up to, I think it was either $3 or $5 million. It's been a while, but that was my job. And one thing I can certainly tell you before we get into this, most truckers would not qualify for an actual business loan. I'm not saying, you know, a simple line of credit or a truck or something like that. I'm saying when you go in there and open up your books and apply for an actual business loan, a lot of truckers are not going to meet that standard, especially the ones that are complaining about the rates, and we're not even a month into this. So let's talk about what I'm saying about this commodities market, or how it's very similar. So first of all, you're buying fuel, which is a commodity, so the amount that you pay for fuel is going to fluctuate. Now, that's going to be offset to some degree by a fluctuating fuel surcharge and things like that, so you're not 100% affected by it, or it's not going to really affect you as much as it could without that fuel surcharge. All right, so the business. So here's the thing. People get in the business not realizing this is similar to a commodities market, where if you look at freight as the commodity, that commodity is going to go up and down based on demand. Now, most truck drivers, I heard, were actually very happy with how this commodity, or how the rates were looking, you know, over the course of the last few years, especially a couple of years ago when rates were really good. Nobody was complaining, nobody was doing anything. Now, since it is sort of like a commodity, sort of like if you've seen Trading Places, frozen juice or frozen juice concentrate and gold, you know, pork belly, those things are going to fluctuate. If Florida has a cold winter and the orange crop gets, you know, messed up, then the price of orange juice goes up the next year. Same thing with rates. Now you got to take the good with the bad. Most of the truck drivers that I hear complaining are sort of like, I was just talking to one of my friends that's a financial advisor, and he helps people buy and sell stocks, manages funds, stuff like that. He says he never hears anything when the market's going up, and as soon as the market's going down, or at least the rookie investors, as soon as the market's going down, he hears from his clients like 4 or 5 times a week asking them what's going on. So a lot of people are complaining about this market and how it needs to get regulated, or, you know, somebody had me watch a video where somebody was talking about something where they do a stimulus and pay you on a certain number of miles that you drove during this period of time. I could almost handle that argument if it wasn't for the fact, and I'm not going to get too political on this, but if it wasn't for the fact that most truck drivers are, I would say, right-leaning Republicans with a very conservative, very conservative on finances. Well, not their own finances necessarily, but economically conservative, I would say. Type of people that don't want to regulate industries and stuff like that, and that's exactly what you're stepping into right there. As soon as you start asking the government for stuff, you're asking for more regulations right there. So, you know, what I'm going to say is, as unfortunate as it is, the people that weren't ready to get in are probably going to get forced out of the market, and the people that were doing what they should have done. Now, if you just stepped in the market, listen, I understand that too, but, you know, you got to step in with a little bit of cash on your side. I mean, maybe not so much on the lease side, but, you know, you should be stepping in with a little bit of money, you know, just to kind of protect yourself from things like this. If you were in the market 3-4 years ago, I don't know how this market, you know, I dealt with a lot of people in a lot of different businesses when I was doing those business loans. Even as a mortgage banker, I've done loans for people that own businesses, from multi-million-dollar businesses down to hair salons and whatever, over the course of my time. And, you know, a lot of those people that are even like hairdressers, I think they understood that hairdressing was more about the business than it was the hairdressing. And I think the problem with most truckers is they think it's more about trucking than it is about business. And then when it becomes about business, sort of like, you know, I felt a little bit of that business myself, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, you get caught by surprise. So, like I said, I don't know the trucking market in itself, but I do know the business market. What I would suspect, and another thing is, you know, before I get onto that, in no way should a freight broker be obliged to tell anybody what their rates are. That would be like asking the bank what their buy rate is on a mortgage loan, or you know, some car dealerships will show you what the invoice is, but that's not the true price. You know, that's not the true cost that they're paying. I don't believe anybody that's selling a service should have to disclose what they paid for whatever they're selling. If they want to, then that's fine. But damn, I forgot my point now. But you know, as far as, you know, we could talk about this, disclosing how much, you know, the freight is. You know, nobody was asking how much the freight was when they were getting paid $4 an hour. It's the same thing. Freight brokers are basically, I almost look at the freight brokers as almost a loan broker. It's sort of like, you know, unless you go to like Wells Fargo, but I worked at a mortgage company that could lend from a number of different banks, and let's say that Wells Fargo had a rate at 5% and this other bank had a rate at 4.75%. What my clients were paying me to do was to go out and find them the best rate. Now, if I'm still making money on that rate, that really has nothing to do with that client. I provided them a service, saved them some money, and I got paid on that. Now, you can cut out the middleman. I'm not saying that would be easy. You know what? You can go ahead. If you feel that freight brokers are ripping you off, you can go out and find your own clients. My friend found his own clients, and now that's all he runs, back and forth from Alabama to North Carolina, I think. But for a while, he was, on that spot market or whatever. I'm not sure if they were calling it the spot market way back when he became an owner-operator, I think in like 98. But, that's one thing that he said, is that you just have to account for the ups and downs in this business. Oh, I remember what my point was. If you're looking at trucking like a business, you need to pay your business first. Until it gets to a certain point, the majority of your money needs to get reinvested in your business. And in this business, I'm not talking about reinvested in some chrome or some nice wheels or, some shit like that. I'm saying you need to invest it in a savings account first, before anything. Once you get that savings account built up, then you can start. And I'm talking about, personally, if I was to become an owner operator, I would not even think about doing it unless I had $100,000 liquid before I'd even do it, because I wouldn't be trying to rely on business credit and all this other kind of stuff. Not for this industry. Other industries maybe, but not this one. That's just me personally. But you got to pay yourself, once everything else is situated. Once you have your savings account. I mean, you have to pay yourself the minimum to survive. But and I don't know a lot of owner-operators. I was talking to my friend about this, and he said, as soon as owner-operators started making some money, they were first, getting all these damn lights on their trailers and doing all this kind of stuff. And then it was, going out and buying basically getting into debt, which is the exact opposite. So anyway, that's a totally different tangent. Really, all I'm saying is you didn't realize you were stepping into the commodities market, essentially, although it's not a commodity. You got caught off guard. Now all you got to do is make it through this market. Once you make it through this market, if you can survive, I do believe the bounce back is going to be incredible. But you just got to wait for that time to happen. And you know what? It is what it is. I mean, everybody could call whoever they want to call and write letters and all this kind of stuff. You knew what you were getting into when you got into this market. As good or as bad as it sounds, it is what it is. And I know what I got into when I got into this leasing. And you know what? I'll tell just a real quick story. My original goal was to become an owner-operator for different reasons than why most owner-operators become owner-operators. I became a lease operator for that reason. Now, let's talk about that. My initial goal was I was going to go to Prime, work there for a year. Once the year was up, I was going to go buy a truck, put it on somewhere, somewhere like Landstar or something like that. And I was just going to do that just because I could have more flexibility, lower truck payment, just the whole deal. And once I realized that that was a risk that I was not willing to take in terms of what could be lost in this, and it looks like I might have been right on that, but the risk was too high for what the difference in pay was going to be over the long run. So I chose to just stick with the lease at Prime. I was going to go company at Prime, and the only reason I did not do that up front was just the days off were not going to work for me. So That's kind of what, that was the main reason why I went lease. And there's a bunch of other reasons, but that's really what got me looking at it in general. Anyway, that's pretty much all that I have to say about this. This, I know, is against the grain of what most people are thinking in this market. Most people are thinking the total exact opposite, where they're thinking that there needs to be a bailout, or, you know, truck drivers need to boycott and drive 10 miles an hour down the highway. You know what? I'm so new in trucking, I still remember what it was like to not be a truck driver. And if you really want to piss people off and have no sympathy for your dumb ass, drive on the highway 10 miles an hour and see if you get any sympathy from people. Right now was the time when you had people that somewhat cared about you, and then you're going to go out there and do that, which is totally not their fault. If you wanted to, well, first of all, I don't agree with any of the mindset that people have with this anyway, so I wouldn't be even thinking about encouraging anybody to boycott and do all this kind of stuff. I mean, shut your truck down if that's what you want, but if you're going to do it, go block the doors at the broker's office or something. I mean, I don't know. You're affecting the wrong people with this. And again, it is supply and demand. It is, the supply is lower and there's a bunch of trucks. So if you're driving a load that's 93 cents a mile, it's because that is what the open market says that that load is worth. Why is it worth that much? Because somebody's willing to take it at 91 cents a mile or whatever, just to go from, you know, if they're going to have to be in Montana anyway, or going home to Montana, and they have a load that's, you know, in Oklahoma going to Montana is 93 or 90 cents or whatever it is a mile, and they can get there, you know, they need to get there, they might as well make a little money on the way. I don't even understand that market. All I know is I know that it's an open market, and it's like the housing market. You know what? I'm probably taking a beating on my houses right now. You know what? And if I go to sell it, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm thinking, you know, it was worth $550 last week, but if somebody's only going to pay $400 for it, guess how much my house is worth? $400. If you're pulling a load that's 93 cents a mile or 90 cents a mile, guess what that load is worth? 93 cents a mile. So I know people want to throw the hero out there and all that kind of, you know what? Think of yourself as a hero. I'm not going to take anything away from you, but you know, even the hero had to get dressed up in regular clothes every now and then. At least Batman and maybe Superman. I don't know about Robin. But anyway, that's my perspective. I know it's not going to be a popular perspective, but that's how I see it. And sometimes people need that, you know, that little stern talking to, you know, that you know, kind of make you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Is all them. Well, I'm not a baby boomer. I'm right on the verge. You know, 50 years old, so I'm Gen X, baby boomer, whatever. But sometimes you just gotta tell like it is. It's not always gonna go your direction. You knew business was not always gonna be good, so sometimes you just gotta take that responsibility. Anyway, thanks for stopping by No Hippie Truck and Transportation. I do appreciate it. Hopefully I'll get out of California as soon as I drop this load tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock. Anyway, thanks for checking me out. Later.